Good evening. The Education Bureau issued a letter to all secondary schools telling them how to prevent infiltration by unlawful societies. This follows the banning of the Hong Kong National Party by the government. Caleb Long has the details.
The Education Bureau issued a letter to all secondary schools alerting them that the Hong Kong National Party has been outlawed since Monday. The letter reminds school administrators not to provide premises or facilities to any unlawful societies or their members for hosting any functions. Schools should also take measures to prevent their students from joining any such societies or taking part in their activities. School principals and teachers should provide guidance to students who hold any erroneous and extreme concepts, adding that their parents should be alerted. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Dozens of vehicles were damaged after a car park in Tseung Kwan O went ablaze. Sources say the case may be triad-related and police are treating it as arson.
Firefighters rushed to the scene and put out the blaze at around 6:40 a.m. Dozens of vehicles were severely damaged. Sources say an initial investigation found the fire may be triad-related, with one vehicle at the car park being the target. Police are treating the case as arson. Officers are helping car owners to claim back their vehicles. The car park has 312 parking spaces. It is owned by Link REIT and managed by Wilson Parking. Some car owners are worried they will not receive any compensation as they have never signed a lease for their parking spots. Paul Law of the International Professional Insurance Consulting Association says drivers who only purchase third-party liability insurance will not receive any compensation in this case. However, car owners may still be compensated if there is proof of negligence on the part of the car park owner or the management company. Examples include security guards leaving their posts and failing to notify anyone about the fire. Link REIT says the car park is regularly patrolled by security guards and fire protection equipment is regularly inspected. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Police are investigating a suspected murder-suicide case in Sheung Wan. Police arrived at Hua Kin International Building on Queens Road Central. They were responding to a report at around 7 a.m. about a man falling from a height. Officers found the man's body on the podium of the building. In a second-floor unit, they also found a woman with knife injuries to her neck and chest. She later died at Ruttenji Hospital. Initial investigations show the man and the woman were a divorced couple and had argued about money. The man was a security guard of the building, and the woman also worked there as a cleaner.
Turning overseas now, and US President Donald Trump had harsh words against globalization, the liberal trading order, and Iran's nuclear ambitions in his annual speech at the UN General Assembly. But, in contrast to last year, Trump was full of praise for North Korea's Kim Jong-un and his efforts to bring peace to the region. An address by the President of the United States to the United Nations General Assembly always commands an audience, even if the American leader is late to the podium. So, despite Donald Trump's late arrival, delegates were all ears. But perhaps the President shouldn't have been surprised he might turn himself into a figure of mockery when he started boasting his administration had achieved more than any other in history, a claim which left the audience in stitches.
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Laughter aside, Trump was serious when he took aim at globalization, saying the world trading system needs urgent reform.
Many nations in this hall will agree that the world trading system is in dire need of change. For example, countries were admitted to the World Trade Organization that violate every single principle on which the organization is based.
Among the offenders Trump singled out, China.
The United States has just announced tariffs on another $200 billion in Chinese-made goods, for a total so far of $250 billion. I have great respect and affection for my friend, President Xi, but I have made clear our trade imbalance is just not acceptable.
Trump's address included a message of gratitude to North Korea's Kim Jong-un in working towards peace on the Korean peninsula, a remarkable moment given the president had threatened Pyongyang with destruction in last year's speech.
I would like to thank Chairman Kim for his courage and for the steps he has taken, though much work remains to be done. The sanctions will stay in place until denuclearization occurs.
In contrast, Trump denounced Iran and asked the world to join the US in isolating it over its actions in Yemen and Syria, while reminding delegates of Tehran's nuclear ambitions.
We cannot allow the world's leading sponsor of terrorism to possess the planet's most dangerous weapons. We ask all nations to isolate Iran's regime as long as its aggression continues.
Meanwhile, Trump's Iranian counterpart, Hassan Rouhani, also addressed the General Assembly last night. Hours after Trump's speech, the Iranian leader took aim at the United States by criticizing countries which disregard international values and institutions. Rouhani also said threats of US sanctions against his country amounted to economic terrorism that wouldn't succeed. But senior US officials like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo warned that America would not stand down from sanctions. And he criticized countries which were attempting to get round US sanctions on Iran. The United States will apply sanctions to halt oil exports from Iran starting on November 4th.
I was disturbed and indeed...
And the United States has imposed new sanctions on the wife and friends of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. This as President Donald Trump urged UN members to support a restoration of democracy in Venezuela. The measured sanctions six officials in Maduro's inner circle, including the country's vice president and defense minister. The move adds pressure to a government already widely criticized for economic collapse and undermining democracy.
President Donald Trump called sexual assault charges against his nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court a con game being played by the Democrats. Senate Republicans, meanwhile, have chosen a female prosecutor specializing in sex crimes to conduct the official questioning of Christine Blasey Ford on Thursday. Our Alan Booknia reports.
Ford, a university professor in California, accuses Kavanaugh of molesting her when he was drunk at a high school party in 1982. But U.S. President Donald Trump is doubling down on his defense of Kavanaugh.
I think he's just a wonderful human being. I mean, I think it's horrible what the Democrats have done. It's a con game they're playing. They're really con artists.
Meanwhile, a second accuser, Debbie Ramirez, said Kavanaugh exposed himself to her at a drunken dormitory party at Yale the following school year. But she admits she'd been drinking and her memory has gaps.
So the second accuser has nothing. The second accuser doesn't even know. She thinks maybe it could have been him, maybe not. She admits that she was drunk. She admits time lapses.
Kavanaugh denies both allegations. The Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to vote on Kavanaugh's nomination Thursday and the full Senate next Tuesday. It's unclear if Blasey Ford's testimony can sway the Republicans' razor-thin majority.
There's nothing that has actually happened yet. There's been a lot of accusations that has changed my feelings my positive feelings about him. But, again, the hearing process is not complete.
Meanwhile, Republicans announced Arizona prosecutor Rachel Mitchell will handle the questioning of Ford. All 11 Republicans on the committee are men. Alan Booknia, TVB News.
Welcome to our lounge. Enjoy your stay. Thanks very much.
1,000 airport lounges worldwide. It's another way we've got your back. The Platinum Card from American Express. Don't live life without it.
Welcome back. Once lauded as America's dad, former actor and comedian Bill Cosby is now considered a sexually violent predator. A judge sentenced him to 3 to 10 years in prison for sexually abusing a woman. 81-year-old Cosby, who is now legally blind and uses a cane, was led out of the court in handcuffs. Cosby has become the first celebrity of the Me Too movement to be sent to prison. He was found guilty in April of drugging and sexually assaulting Andrea Constand at his gated estate in 2004. At least 60 other women accused Cosby of doing the same to them. Had it not for a 10-year limit on reporting sex crimes, they too would have pressed charges.
There has been no justice for many of the accusers who were barred from a court by the arbitrary time limits imposed by the statute of limitations. But many of them were brave enough to speak to law enforcement.
I was young and innocent, only 17 years old. I will find peace of mind as long as Mr. Cosby serves prison time for his actions.
You're a convicted criminal. Everyone knows it, and everyone knows what you did to me.
I sincerely hope that you suffer now. I cannot forgive the predator and serial rapist that you are.
The punishment ensures Cosby will spend no less than 3 years in prison before he's eligible for supervised release. If denied parole, he could stay behind bars for the full decade. But this case may not be over. Cosby's defense team plans to fight for his immediate release. They insist a tape recording used to prove Cosby molested Constand was doctored.
Forensic expert has now confirmed that the tape was manipulated in 2 places. The expert, in her own words, concluded, without question, this is not an authentic recording.
Argentina's central bank chief, Luis Caputo, resigned amid crucial negotiations with the International Monetary Fund. Argentina is reaching out to the IMF as it struggles with one of the world's highest inflation rates and a sharp depreciation in its currency. The peso has lost more than half of its value against the US dollar this year. A statement from the central bank said Caputo is stepping down for personal reasons after just 3.5 months on the job. Economists say his resignation increases the probability of disorder in the markets. It also comes as Argentina's labor union staged a nationwide strike. They're protesting against economic turmoil and austerity measures imposed by the government.
The MTRC remains optimistic about healthy passenger numbers for the high-speed rail network. This despite a failure to meet the projected target of 80,000 people per day. As Sharon Tang reports, counters dealing with pre-order tickets online are still jammed with crowds.
MTRC officials described the first few days of operations as generally smooth. Still, they asked the public for more patience.
In any new rail network, it takes time for people to get to understand and to use the new service. So there's usually some build-up, time for a network to be fully utilized.
The corporation has unveiled some encouraging figures. Up until yesterday, the Rail Links Hong Kong section has carried up to 160,000 passengers since Sunday's opening. Nearly 300,000 tickets were sold for journeys within 30 days. More people are expected to use the railway during the Golden Week holiday next week. Still, many tourists are upset there are only 5 counters which deal with tickets ordered on mainland official websites. This woman says traveling to Hong Kong only takes 10 minutes, but it takes double the time for her to queue and collect her tickets. To alleviate the situation, the MTRC says it has already asked for more counters from China Railways.
We further discuss with them whether they can transplant some of the ticket collecting machine to Hong Kong. So they are committed to do so.
Adding to the passenger confusion were regulations governing the size of luggage one can bring on the train. I came all the way from Shenzhen with this. How am I supposed to know there are restrictions here? This woman said. Although station staff can provide extra bags for travelers, some left their oversized luggage behind. The MTRC says they will keep the oversized luggage for 30 days and reminded owners to take them back. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
People lined up at the Housing Authority's Lok Fu Customer Service Centre to get application forms for a new batch of home ownership scheme flats. The flats are the first to be put up for sale after the government changed the pricing formula for HOS housing units. The prices have now been lowered to 52% of market levels, down from 70%. People started queuing for application forms this morning. The forms can also be downloaded from the Housing Authority's website. More than 4,000 housing units in 3 HOS projects located in Cheung Sha Wan, Kai Tak and Tung Chung are on offer. The selling prices range from $118,000 to $4.6 million. Applicants should return the completed forms between October 3rd and the 16th, and previous applications will remain valid. The balloting is set to be held in November.
The 5-month consultation over the 18 land supply options came to an end today. Real estate developers voiced their support for one of the controversial options, the government jointly developing private farmland in the new territories with private developers. Our Christy Lung has the details.
Developing private farmland and the public-private partnerships was one of the 18 options which has aroused hot debate during the consultation period. Real estate developers voiced their support today.
We have existing, well-tried and tested systems that have been used in the past, back in the 70s, formation of new towns and so forth. And these are practices that are well understood by both the administration and by the industry practitioners.
There are suggestions to form a public-private partnership authority to oversee the land conversion process, thus aim to allay public fears of collusion between the government and private developers. But the association disagreed.
If you're going to create a new system, obviously we all step slightly into the unknown, and we don't know how long that will take, what the teething troubles will be.
Under the public-private partnership approach, infrastructure facilities will be built with public funds, while private developers are committed to build a certain portion of affordable housing. The Real Estate Developers Association argued developers are not given any advantages, as they also have to pay land premiums. Given the complex ownership over brownfield sites in the new territories, the association said the government should take the initiative to negotiate with stakeholders. Meanwhile, the association has also urged the government to introduce a higher plot ratio for housing projects in new development areas to better utilize land in the new territories. Christy Lung, TVB News.
Bye-bye.